very happy to see everybody. We had a week off last week because of the groundbreaking ceremony in Malaysia for the, I think it was the international school. And I think it was very, very nice. We see a lot of news online, and the footage is online. It was all it was grand. And I'm happy, and I'm sure that this will be a wonderful addition to what is already a very, very much fast-growing community of volunteers and people and bodhisattvas that we can work together. So thank you all for all contributing, and I'm sure it will be a very sustained education mission for those of you in Malaysia. And this week, what we're going to talk about as we go on to page 2. So previously, we talked about, 2 weeks ago, we talked about the idea of opening the trail and paving the path. That there is a path that we, that the people before us have already opened, and we have to pave the road so that we could make it easy for others to walk on. And that was what we talked about previously. And this week, I think with the ending to chapter 15 and the beginning of chapter 16, I think it's important for us to review what we had talked about, what Master had talked about in the past 2 months about chapter 15, the emerging from the earth, the chapter of emerging from the earth. And also, from one of the questions, we talked about the 3 bodies of the Buddha. And amazingly, today, Master also took a little bit of time to discuss this idea, this concept as well. And today, hopefully, we can dive into it again. We have discussed the 3 bodies of the Buddha before, but it's something that we are going to talk about again today. And hopefully, we will be able to have a better grasp and understanding of what this is. So quickly go through in the past half year. Okay, so the time really flies by. I don't know if you realized it, but the time really flew by. So for 3 months, Master spent 3 months on chapter 14, and that was peaceful and joyous practices. And after that, Master took about 1 month time. Or it was exactly 30 days, I think. 30 days of the trip, the road trip around Taiwan. And then she took now, after she comes back, another 2 months of chapter 15, which is emerging from the earth. So it is something that if you look at it in perspective of time, in the past half year, we have covered 2 chapters, chapter 14 and chapter 15. And just this past week, we have began our journey into chapter 16. So before going in, I think it's important to understand, to review what we had talked about in the past, in the past 2 months in this particular chapter. So first of all, if you remember, at the end of chapter 15, at the end of emerging from the earth, the actual chapter actually finished with doubt. It was Bodhisattva Maitreya was asking, believe all of this because it is so difficult for us to see and to believe. So please, Buddha, explain to us and explain to all of the people in the future where they will have doubt when they hear this from you. And this is not just what was happening. I think this was more about in the general sense of what the teaching was, that people of the future or people of the present, they might not be able to understand and they might not be able to believe. So how can we convince, or what can we do to show them that this is the truth? So remember, chapter 15, it finishes with a question. It finishes with Bodhisattva Maitreya asking the question, expressing doubt. So that was something for us to sort of remember. But if we go back to previously, it actually started. Chapter 15 actually started with all the bodhisattvas from other worlds. They're coming here and they're telling the Buddha, please do not worry. After the joyous and the peaceful practices chapter, Buddha talked about how difficult it will be in the future, how many challenges there will be. So all these bodhisattvas coming from different worlds, they began to come and say, we will do this. Do not worry that there are all these difficulties, but we will continue. And so the Buddha told them that no, there are plenty of bodhisattvas here in this world that can take on this opportunity, take on this responsibility. And Master told us that there are 4 reasons. And as I depicted here, the 4 reasons are that it's important to safeguard the vows of those that are here in this Saha world. There are those bodhisattvas in this world that have already made the vow to try to pass on the teachings of the Buddha. And we need to safeguard that to make sure that this is not, it's not that you're not doing well. It's not that you're not doing your job. It's that this is your vow and we will keep it for you, okay? And also there are these other worlds and other responsibilities that the bodhisattvas from the other worlds, they also have their own responsibilities as well. Don't just, come here and there and thinking that you can just come here and do the things here and not thinking about, well, what about your own responsibilities in the local places? And also that little basis in affinity means that even if the other worlds, bodhisattvas are coming here from the other world, they do not have the strong affinity base and to be connected to the people there. So that's why it's very difficult as well. And also, this is something for everyone, that the fact that we have a goal and objective means that nobody should slack off. And if we take this to look at what we have today, so for example, everybody sees that there is the groundbreaking ceremony, right, that took place last week, or the disaster that we see, whether it's in the United States, right, the Hurricane Harvey, or Hurricane Irma, Hurricane Jose, and others, or the earthquake in Mexico. So it's all about the same idea, that there are groups of volunteers that's already there, locally there, just like the groundbreaking ceremony. Yes, we have special guests, guests of honor coming from Taiwan. However, these people, they can only represent some type of well-wish. The true group of people that's going to cultivate this land, this fertile land, it's going to be you, the people of Malaysia, the people there. And so it's not going to work if we keep on shipping people from Taiwan, from Indonesia, from all these places to support Malaysia. Malaysia had to find your own people, and you have. So that's exactly what we are seeing here in this chapter and the beginning. So this is only to go through some of the important concepts of this chapter. And Master also took about 3 weeks or 4 weeks almost to talk about the 4 wisdoms. And these are the wisdom of accomplishment, wisdom of profound insight, wisdom of innate identity, and wisdom of great perfect mirror. And we're going to talk about today these 4 wisdoms, how they are connected to the 3 bodies, the 3 bodies of Buddha as well. So these are some of the concepts that were covered in this chapter. And so for those of you that joined late, if you found these to be very interesting, then there are obviously the sutra that you can go through. There are texts that you can go through. And you can always ask Sister Jing to find out if where you can find a text. And there are the videos that were recorded online on some of these topics as well. Okay, so in terms of the 4 wisdoms, the whole idea is about how we can elevate, turning our consciousness into wisdom. And what is consciousness? Consciousness are just our sensory organs or our senses. Our eyes, our ears, nose, tongue, sense, and mind. All these are things that we can use, our body, our physical faculties, to use to receive the information and the message from around us. That's consciousness. But how do we turn something that's consciousness into wisdom? Wisdom is something that we take, that's the information that's given, process it, merge it with Dharma, and then do something about it. So when we hear through our ears the news of Mexico earthquake, when we hear the news of Hurricane Harvey, when we hear the news of the international school groundbreaking ceremony, we have to take that. That's just consciousness hearing the news. That's just us differentiating the news and know, oh yeah, Malaysia, oh, US, yes, I know these places. But how do we turn that knowledge into wisdom? And that's what chapter 15, Master has spent a long time talking about this as well. And so on this page, we see that indeed, chapter 15 ended with doubt. And this doubt has faith in it. So it might be very interesting to see that how is it possible that you can have doubt and faith at the same time? So this is what happened, right? At the end of chapter 15, and this is what Master talked about today as well, that Maitreya talked about a 25-year-old young person pointing to a group of hundreds, very old elders, that look to be 100 years old, pointed to them and say, you are my children. And these 100-year-old old people reply and say, yes, indeed, we are, and you are our father, talking to a 25-year-old person. Now, Maitreya, this is an example that's used by Bodhisattva Maitreya to explain to the Buddha why it is so difficult to believe that all the bodhisattvas that have emerged from the earth are actually followers and disciples of the Buddha, seeing that the Buddha had only cultivated and practiced and preached the Dharma for 4 decades. How is it possible that all these bodhisattvas that have looked to be, first of all, great in number, second of all, have so much accomplishment, that look to be years and years and years of accomplishment? How is it possible that Buddha in the short 40 years was able to accomplish all of that? So Maitreya used an analogy to pose the question. And he further said that, no, we're not doubting. Okay, so Master said it today too. We are not doubting. We believe all the words that the Buddha said. But we have these questions. And these questions are not just for us, but it's going to be for the people of the future. They are going to have the same questions too. So Buddha, please ask us. So in another word, they have questions because they don't understand. There's some doubt in their heart that they don't know if it's true because it's so seemingly impossible to believe. But they still have faith. They say, no, we believe whatever the Buddha says must be true. It's just that we don't understand. So how is it possible that you can have doubt and faith existing at the same time? Well, I think this is very natural. We all exist in a very paradoxical world. Like we the ordinary beings, okay, we exist in this very paradoxical world. For example, the family, our family, either it's your parents, your loved one, your spouse, your children, your brothers and sisters, right? You love them, yes. But sometimes you just hate them. Sometimes you just fight with them for no reason. And that's just the paradox that's in all of this. That yes, you have faith. You believe in the Buddha, just like we believe in the Master. But there are times when you will question what the Master said. Just last week, I gave 2 sharings in Taiwan about faith, about trust. And I used about 5 examples for me in the 7 years that I'm back in Taiwan. 5 brief examples how I defied what Master says because I don't believe her. Now, do you think that I don't trust her? Well, obviously I trust her. That is why I'm here. But even with all that big picture of trust, there are still something that you have doubts on. And that's what these bodhisattvas are expressing. That it is not, having trust doesn't mean 100% completely. It means that we still have our affliction that affects us and making us not understanding completely because we're using our capacity to view the viewpoint of somebody that's greater. But obviously that is very difficult. So chapter 15 ended with doubt. Even though there's some faith, but it's still doubt nonetheless. So now we're going to talk about, so that was a very brief review of what chapter 15 was about. Now we're going to go into page 10, which is the three bodies of the Buddha, or what we call the Trikaya. The Trikaya, as we mentioned before, is the three bodies of the Buddha that was explained today in Master's Dharma talk as well. So we're talking about the Trikaya because, not because somebody asked the question, but also before we go into chapter 16, we have to understand, and that is why while on the first 3 or 4 days of chapter 16, Master always comes back to these three bodies, because it's very important that to understand chapter 16, we must understand the ideas behind the three bodies of the Buddha. So that's why, and thanks to you all to pose the question, that we would do an additional session on the three bodies, because we had done this before, but I think it's very important that we should do this again. And the content obviously would be very different. So first of all, definition. The three bodies, page 11, the Trikaya in their original text, first of all, it's called the Dhammakaya. This is the body of enlightenment and truth. These were the definition that were given by the Master, I think there was sometimes 3 weeks ago. Dhammakaya is the body of enlightenment and truth. And then there's a Sambhogagaya, which is the body of various transformation. And then the Nirmanagaya, which is the body of reward. These are the three bodies. And today, the idea isn't for everybody to memorize these three, but rather to understand the meaning of these three bodies and how we can use them. Okay, so next page. What do the three bodies of Buddha mean? What do they actually mean? So let's go with the definition actually that Master gave this week. So Master talked about the Dhammakaya, which we talked about was the body of enlightenment and the truth. She says that this is the body, okay, the T, the body. Sambhogagaya is the body of various transformation. It's called the use. Nirmanakaya is the body of reward, which is form. So for everything that exists in this world that we can see and touch, or the things that we cannot see, cannot touch, everything there is and everything there isn't, there are always these three attributes: the body, the use, and the form. And that's how we are able to quantify. And this is something that I want to share with everybody, that's why Buddhism, it is so scientific. Because back in 2,500 years ago, they already used the concept of how to define something using what its body is, its core, okay, the core, what its uses are, and what's the form, how does it look like? What are the things that represent this, or what does this represent? So these are the three main characteristics of anything that we see, that we talk about, that we say. Example. So now we're going to go into page 14. I'm going to give you examples of what that really means. And we're going to use something that is very close to all of us, and that's called Tzu. Okay. So page 15. Let's use Tzu. Tzu, what represents Tzu? What does Tzu look like? And what does Tzu do? Right? The body, the symbol, the body, the use, and the form. Those are the three things that people are using to try to understand something that they don't understand. So it's very scientific. For anything that you don't understand, you learn by seeing what it looks like, that's the form, knowing what it can do, that's the use, and then understanding its entire background, that's the core or the body. So for everything, and I think for us, maybe we had forgotten long ago when we were children, when we were babies, we're growing up, everything that we see, we don't understand. First thing we do is we see what it looks like. This is the form. If this is a computer, this is a cell phone. But we don't know what it is. We don't know its name yet. We just know that it looks like this. And then we begin to know what it can do. It makes noises. It makes sounds. It rings. It vibrates. It has all these cartoons on it. And you press these buttons, and then all these cartoons begin to form. So that's the use. And then we begin to find out, oh, so this is called a computer. And this was actually invented. And many, many people use it. And it's actually very expensive. It's a piece of equipment, high technology. All of that is the core. So for everything that exists in this world, you always use these three attributes or three characteristics to understand something. So let's use this example, 慈济. What represents 慈济? What does 慈济 look like? And what does 慈济 do? So for those of people that at first began to learn what 慈济 is, to someone who is hungry, 慈济 is there to give them food. To someone who is thirsty, 慈济 is there to give them water. To someone who is cold, 慈济 is there to give them a blanket. To someone who is sad, 慈济 is there to give them comfort. To someone who is suffering, then 慈济 provides, whether it's spiritual suffering or physically suffering, 慈济 is there to provide relief. So to all these people, 慈济 is food giver, water giver, blanket giver, comfort giver, or wisdom giver. To all the different people, 慈济 is a different, it shows off differently depending on what these people need. And that's what we call, this is what we call various transformation. So all over the world, you see our brothers and sisters wearing blue and white. That is the various transformations of Tzu Chi. They see the blue and white. They see what they do. They think that's what Tzu Chi does, but Tzu Chi does more than that. But to them, because their interaction with Tzu Chi is only receiving the rice, receiving the blanket, receiving the donation, or etc. That's one variation of what Tzu Chi is. But Tzu Chi is a lot more than that, right? So to somebody who only gets the food from Tzu Chi, they would think that this is an organization that gives out food, which is true. And to somebody that, doesn't have a place to live and we provide them with temporary shelter, that's what we do. So that's the manifestation. We have our core principle and we see what they need and then we give it to them. That's the transformation. That's the manifestation of the idea Tzu Chi. Okay, so that's the first one. That's the first one, what we talk about. All the manifestations and transformations, all of the blue and white, all of the volunteers, all the things that were done in the whole world in the past 52 years. If you put all of that combined together, all of that, whether you sit there and watch all the videos of all the historical footages, and you hear the stories of all the volunteers, you hear the stories of how back in 1966, how Master started Tzu Chi. You put all of that together, condense that into our little mind, put all of that into our head. We combine all of that to form a generalized concept of Tzu Chi, a symbol of Tzu Chi. So for example, right now if I mention the word Tzu Chi, what comes up in your mind? It could be the word Tzu Chi. It could be a picture of Master. It could be the cover of a particular book that you always remember associate with the word Tzu Chi. It could be our abode. It could be our Jing Tang. Or for all those of you that have not been to Taiwan, you can't possibly memorize or vision all of that. You can probably only vision that from the book or from the TV or from the computer, from the pictures. But you cannot visualize in 3D what it really is like. So you will vision different things. For example, for those of you that are in Malaysia, you'll probably vision your Jing Tang, right, in KL, or your or the particular logo, or the blue and white uniform. Those are the generalized form of Tzu Chi that puts all these things, the historical backgrounds and all of that together. So you have all these various transformation and manifestation. If you put all of that together, if you put all the things that Tzu Chi ever does in Malaysia, in Indonesia, in Vietnam, in Hong Kong, in Japan, and all of that together, in China, in US, and all of that in the world, and in the past 52 years, if you put all of that together, it combines to form a symbol. And this symbol could be our logo, could be our flag, could be a picture of Master, could be the picture of the abode, could be a picture of Jing Tang, whatever it is. That's a generalized generalized concept of Tzu Chi, and that's what we call a form. So when you see that, you right away know that that is Tzu Chi. So we're going from all the ends. All the ends are the various transformations. It's like the person that you go to visit for charity cases. You go and visit them. They see you and they see your uniform. They know that you're from Tzu Chi. So right away, the form is already there, the symbol, the representation. But they think Tzu Chi is the same as you, same as giving food and charity relief. And then you would tell them, no, me, I am just one manifestation of Tzu Chi. There are a lot more, thousands more, millions more. It actually does a lot more. Then you begin to explain to them what Tzu Chi actually does in different parts of the world. And then you give out this, the coin banks for them to donate. So all these things we are all living in the three bodies. We just didn't realize it. So the various transformation, the form is the representation. So what is the Dhammakaya then? So we're talking about the variation already. We talk about the various transformation. We talk about the form. So what about the Dharma body itself? What about the Dharma body itself? What does that really mean? And that's the most difficult part. It's called the body, but it's the most abstract thing out of all three. Why? Because the various transformation and manifestation we can see and can touch. And in fact, we are them. We are the various transformation. We can also see the form, which is the symbol, something in our mind that we equate with Tzu Chi, a symbol, a picture, an idea, a concept. However, all the things, even if you put all of the things that we have done in the 52 years, if we put all and everyone's experience together, is that Tzu Chi? And my answer is no, it's not. Because Tzu Chi is actually greater than what we have been doing together. It's transcending border, it's transcending all the religion. Yes, we talk about all that, but it's greater than that. What does that mean? It means that it's an ideal, it's a concept that goes beyond words. It's something that is always there, just like what Master said today. It's always there. The more you do it, doesn't make it bigger. The less you do it doesn't make it any lesser. It's always there. And that originates from compassion, originates from kindness, from honesty, from all the very core attributes that we ever talk about. These are the things. That's the thing that is the most difficult to grab onto. You can grab onto the variations, the various transformations. You can grab onto the logo, the representation, the form, but it's very difficult to grab onto what they represent, the idea that's behind them. So coming back to the idea of the Buddha, three bodies of the Buddha. The various transformation is depending on the capacity and depending on the need of the people. The Buddha will show a form to help them. So whether it's in the form of an animal, a deer, an elephant, or whether it's in the form of a statesman, an old person, a young person, a mother, a husband, a wife, whatever. The Buddha will show, the Dharma will show its form using these manifestations. And that's the transformation, all the manifestations. Form is how we used to identify. So if you put all of these Buddha teachings and Buddha Dhamma together, what is that one symbol? And many people think of it as the statue of the Buddha, or the Buddha himself, or or what we call the symbol of Buddha, right? The symbol of Buddhism, or any of the things that we use to associate with all of these things put together. These are the two things that we can really get and grab onto. But the hardest thing to get is, well, what is Buddha trying to say? And even Master today said that the wisdom is so boundless that we can't possibly understand. And only through experience and only through accumulation of a very long time, lifetime after lifetime, would we be able to understand. So that's the last part, the most difficult part to understand. So what is Tzu Chi? That's the hardest part to understand because you're trying to use words to explain something. And the moment that you begin to say it, you already restrict and confine it to what it is. You can only know what Tzu Chi is by coming in and experience it for yourself. And the moment you say Tzu Chi is this, then it loses the authenticity because it means that it is not that. That's why the third part, the Dhammakaya, is the hardest part. But once you experience it, you understand. So what is Tzu Chi? Well, the answer is Tzu Chi is. You can't explain it, just like the Dharma. What is Dharma? The moment you begin to explain Dharma, the moment you're missing something that it is, but you are not saying it. So it's something for us to really, truly understand. So there are these levels. We experience Buddhism through somebody showing us a manifestation. This is an act of kindness. Very good. Buddha taught us that. This is an act of honesty. Very good. Buddha taught us that. That's an act of affliction. Don't do that. Buddha taught us that. So those are all various transformations and manifestations that we see. That's our first contact into what Buddhism is. And then the more we see, we begin to generalize this. And in our mind, we begin to generalize and think, so Buddha taught to us that we must be kind. And the Buddha told us that we must be compassionate. And that's important. That's all the general forms that combine to form a generalized concept. So that's that. But the hardest part is, what is Buddhism? And that's something, what is Dharma? And those are the things that we would not be able to understand unless we walk through it ourselves. So once again, going back to all of this, we're trying to show the three bodies. And so I'm just showing you the three bodies again. And basically the body, the use, and the form. And that's what it's actually very scientific. For anything that we don't understand, for anything that we begin to slowly learn, we always go through, what does it look like? How do we use it? And you know what? Coming back to Four Wisdom, I know I'm a little bit over time, but coming back to Four Wisdom, it's all about how do we elevate. So let's go through the wisdom of accomplishment. Wisdom of accomplishment talks about all the things that we have done already, all the things that we have done. Okay, all the things that we have done, and the things that we can see and hear. And the wisdom of profound insight is to also use our senses to differentiate, to know, so this is a cell phone, this is a notepad, this is an iPad, and this is an iPhone, or this is food, this is drink. It's coming from our knowledge to understand what it is. Okay, so those two wisdoms are still talking about the various transformation and manifestation, what we see, what we touch. We have to always begin with what we can see and touch to understand something that we don't understand, right? So that's what various transformation is. What we have done variously, right? Various things that we have done in Tzu Chi. Various things that we have said that we are about in Tzu Chi. Profound insight to see the very minute details. It's not even just what we do, but our concept, our ideas, compassion, kindness, honesty, steadfast, and all these things, perseverance. All these are attributes. And they're all very different. All the things that we do, they are different. And all the things that we do, they're the same. So the first two are still very much various transformation. All the different, all the distinct things that we are doing. And so the third part, innate identity, if you put all of that together, the identity that is all across the board is the same. Malaysia has the same Tzu Chi logo as we in Taiwan. We all have the same logo. We all have the same master. We all have to speak the same language. The four noble truths, the ideas, and all this, that's all the same. So it comes back to innate identity. The things that we all share, that's the same. Now, when we can put all of that together, we have to make the leap and elevate ourselves and to say, no longer are we talking about the things that we can see and grab and touch, but what does it really mean? That takes experience. All of the things before this, the first three wisdom, we could all get from other people. This is the logo. This is blue and white, the uniform. And this is Brother Joe. That's Brother Kevin. That's Sister, whoever, right? All of that we can get from other people telling us. But in order to make a great, perfect wisdom, you have to experience this for yourselves. Then you will be able to go back to the first wisdom of accomplishment and say, yeah, that's your accomplishment. That's what Tzu Chi had done. And that's what Tzu Chi Malaysia had done. That's what Indonesia had done. This is what Philippines had done. This is what Taiwan had done. This is what US had done. Yes, that's what they had done. Now, after I had come into walk on this path, I will begin my own wisdom of accomplishment. This is what I have done in the US. This is what I have done in Malaysia. This is what I have done in Africa. And then from there, I see all the different things, all the various transformations. You put all of them together, you begin to see the innate identity that they're all the same. What are they the same? They all have the same hairdo. They all follow the same principle. They all have the same logo. They all have the same uniform. All of these are the same. You begin to see the similarities with all the various manifestations. The more you do this, after lifetime, you begin to realize Tzu Chi isn't just about the uniform, the logo, it's not even just about the master, it's not even about the 4 missions, it's much greater than that. When we begin to grasp that, that's the great, perfect mirror. And that's how we can tie the 3 bodies to the 4 wisdoms. And using a very simple example of Tzu Chi, hopefully we can understand that this is actually what we can do in our daily lives. For anything that we don't understand, let's think. What are these uses? What are its forms? What are its various transformations? A particular person, we don't know them. Your name is Joe. Okay, you look like this. You are this yay high and you have this glasses. Okay, you dress like this in blue and white in your uniform. Okay, that's the form. What do? Various transformations. The more you see it and you put all of them together, that becomes who you are, the form. But it's actually, if you go back to the words, it's called the body of reward. So this form, when people begin to look at it, they begin to attach with it emotion. Some people will see another person and they're not too happy to see them. Somebody will see, for example, they see Buddha, who has 32 characteristics and 32 forms and 80 characteristics. And to them, that's the most perfect form. Great. That means people see Buddha and they will be happy, but not everybody. Okay. So same idea. It's a body of reward because whatever you have done, this is going back to the wisdom of accomplishment. You have accomplished all these things, but if the things that you accomplish isn't good, or if the things that you accomplish is mostly bad, then the body of reward will be somebody who, when other people sees, will not be too happy, will not be too joyous. So this is what we can use on ourselves. This is Brother Joe, okay, and this is what he looks like, this is his name, and let's look at all the things that he had done. You put all of them together, it becomes something that it's a representation of Brother Joe in your mind, and then it comes along with it an emotion of how you feel about this person, the emotion that you associate with this particular person or particular notion or particular symbol. You put all of them, the things that you know about this person, into this one symbol. And the more you deal with this person, the more you get to know them, you begin to realize, oh, there are so many sides of Brother Joe that you don't know. And let me tell you, there are many sides of me that you don't know. But anyway, so there are things that we don't know about each other. But the more we know, the more we begin to find out about the great perfect mirror, the complete wisdom about who this person really is. And trust me, we're all finding out who we are as we speak. So that's my sharing for today, to share with you the 3 bodies, the 4 wisdoms, and hopefully encourages all of us to use the 3 bodies to see everything that we do not understand. Whether it's our work project, somebody that we're trying to begin to understand and know, just to see from these ways. It's very scientific. It's very intuitive. It's very logical. That this is how we get to know something that we don't understand, through the body, the form, and the use. So that's what my sharing for today. So hopefully, knowing this, going into chapter 16, we would be able to have a much greater appreciation for what Master is trying to tell us, because all we're seeing are just the various transformation and manifestation. But is this really Dharma? No, it's not just that. It's all this, but it's more. How much more? Let's all find out by going into it and experience it for ourselves. So that's my sharing for today. And thank you all for listening. And I hope that this will shed some light and inspire some more conversation about this. And we will, so now we'll begin our next session, which I think is Setya that's going to share for today. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank Brother Joe for the wonderful sharing. Today we have Stapa to share. Sister Riani.
Good morning, Brother Joe, Singso Master, and all the brothers and sisters around the globe. My name is Riani from Setapak, Kuala Lumpur. I would like to share how to see and English Dharma sharing transformed my life. Since young, at home I was pampered by my parents and brothers. At school, I have caring friends who are more than willing to lend me helping hands whenever needed. This self-centered character has been carried through to my marriage life, and this often caused chaos in my family without me realizing that I was the root cause. Joining Tzu Chi was the best thing that could have happened to me. With strong encouragement from volunteers at my community center, I began to participate in the various training, Dharma sharing, and involvement in Tzu Chi activity. That was really an eye-opener to me. Through charity work, I see countless sufferings, and from there I realized that I am so blessed. I have everything I need, yet still not satisfied because of my ignorance. The weekly Saturday Dharma sharing was really timely. It connects Dharma to our daily life, and that benefited me a lot. I slowly learned to put Dharma into action. When something bad happened, I will do self-reflection instead of putting the blame onto others. I also derive much joy from joining Tzu Chi activity because I can feel the great love in the family. This really touched me and gave me the strength to carry on. When I share the Dharma with my friends and family and I receive positive response, it spurs me to move on even more diligently. All these small positive encounters accumulated give me greater strength to face all kinds of challenges. Dharma will always be my guiding principle, as it has transformed me to be a better person each day. I'm going for commissioning end of this year, and I wish to thank all volunteers in my community, especially my mentor, Sister Peggy and Sister Lacey, and Dharma team from Hualien, English group volunteers, for their tireless effort and persistence that make my commissioning a reality. Good morning, everybody. I'm Leni from Malaysia. My sharing for today actually is more on my experience in parents-children's bonding class, because I start join such activity is through this activity. My latest experience is during the international school groundbreaking ceremony. I have bring my two sons to join the performance. Actually, on the way we hold the ceremony in the bus. My sons actually is the noisiest one, because they keep on playing in the bus. And that if it was me before joining Tzu Chi activity, I will sure be upset with their behavior, scold them. But because I have joined Tzu Chi for 4 years, and then learned from parent-children bonding class, so I learned to accept their behavior, and then just instead of controlling them, I more on guiding them. So I just let them play in the class, and then just guide them if they over their limit, like for example, too noisy or interrupting others. That's the changes that I can see for myself. And actually, my sons also more accept the way I treat them by this way. Instead of controlling them, I just guide them. That's all for my sharing. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you, both sisters. It's very heartwarming sharing to hear. First of all, welcome to Taiwan, and I think at the year's end, we're going to see you. I think it's going to be in Hualien. I'm not sure where Malaysia is going to be, but regardless, you're going to come to Taiwan for the commission of the ceremony, and we welcome you. And I think as what both of you have said, that this particular transformation, how we use it, and let me share with you, this is how the Dharma is going to live on. This is how Master have been talking about, how her Dharma lineage is able to pass on. It's not in the form of the words. It's not in the form of videos. It's in the form of how we use it in our lives. People in the future, 500 years later, see, right now, if you think about basketball, in my age, I still remember Michael Jordan. So that's how I memorize it. But 200 years from now, it's not going to be Michael Jordan. It's not even going to be called the basketball. It's going to be called something else. I don't know. Same thing. 500 years from now, in the future, would what we do today in Tzu Chi be recognized as Tzu Chi? Or would they return to its more primitive form, which is called compassion or Buddhism or whatnot? We don't know. But how it gets to be passed on is through the examples that you two have shown today. That through what you do and your transformation, you have become the manifestation of the idea that Tzu Chi is. It's not just about the four mission. It's about how we can become better. And it's not even just about how we can become better. It's about how we can get other people to become better. And it's not just what I just said. It's more than what I just said. And that's what I meant about the three bodies. It's the same. You are part of the manifestation that the future generation will rely on to see you, to understand the uses of Tzu Chi, and then incorporate that together to understand. So that's what this logo represents. That's what this Dharma Master is teaching. That's what this knowledge is all about. So thank you for both of your sharing. Those are very touching and very true and true sharings. And I most want to once again welcome, I think it's Sister Riani to come back to Taiwan, and even though it's the beginning, it's the first step. In terms of being a commissioner, let me share with you, it's just also one of the many transformations, one of the many manifestations. There are more to that, more to this than just becoming a commissioner. And many people would tell you that too. And there are all these phantom cities. That's one of them. But if we can put all of the phantom cities together and look beyond and elevate our belief and elevate our faith beyond that, then that's what Buddhism is really all about. But it all takes experience. So thank you, Riani, and also Lian for sharing this for this understanding. So we're going to go through some of the questions that were posted. So very quickly. Question 1, why Master keeps on asking us to walk softly so that the land or the soil won't get hurt? Once again, applying what we have learned today, applying what we have understood today, the three bodies, this particular phrase is one of the many, many phrases that Master says. In another word, this is one of the very many various manifestations of the idea and concept that Master has. So this is one of the things that she says, yes, now let's put all this together with all the things that she has said in the past to get a better idea and understanding of what she was trying to tell us. For my understanding of what this phrase, this particular sentence, is that there are more meanings behind this. For example, the path that we walk on, we have to see that it's not just something that was there for us to walk on. We must also look into its past. Where was this path before there was a path? Who made it? Who made it possible? If we are too careless, did we accidentally hurt the people that paved the road? Did we accidentally disrespected the others that were walking on this path? How do I make this path walkable for others after me? So there are so many things that is encapsulated in this particular 走路要轻，怕地会痛. Because Master wants you to think more than about, I am the one that's walking, but rather, have you ever thought about how the earth feels? Have you ever thought about what other people feel? Have you ever thought about who laid this path before you? Why did they do this? Why did they make this path? How did the people walk before there was such a path? And how are you going to make it better and improve it for the people that's going to come after you? And if this is the right path, are you going to be able to get more people to walk on this path? There are so many things that's expanded from this particular statement. So seeing the manifestation is just using our wisdom of accomplishment and also wondrous the wondrous observation that we have to see that using the wondrous insight to understand all the distinctions. But we always need to challenge ourselves to elevate, to go above that, not just to see and decipher what we just see and hear and touch, but we also know the meanings behind that. And that's going to take experience, accumulation, and walk it yourself so that you can understand. Okay, so that's the response for the first question. Second question, is it true that our emotion and temper can affect the weather condition? Now, I can't tell you definitively using scientific means. However, is it something that we can believe? So once again, it goes back to the end of chapter 15, and it goes back to what Master said today. Yes, you can talk about all these phenomena. You can talk about all these things. But right now, if it doesn't merge with science or it merges with logic, it might be very difficult for us to understand or even grasp. And that is why it is imperative. That's why you hear all these people, but Buddha, we don't understand. It's not that we don't believe you. It's just that we don't understand. If you talk to people 30 years ago, if you tell them about the idea of a cell phone that is so small, or in this case, it's pretty big. But if you talk about this cell phone has the power to do all these things that it can do right now, 30 years ago, they would tell you this is impossible, right? 30 years ago. Because it just doesn't, it's not possible. You cannot tell me something that looks like a brick can actually work like a phone and like a computer, like a notepad, like all of these things. It has a, flashlight and all this, a calculator, all this. 30 years ago, 50 years ago, people would tell you you're nuts. But now we see that it's possible. So now I cannot prove it to you whether the temper can affect the weather. But I believe in Master. Just like Maitreya, just like all of the followers. They can't prove it, but they believe. And they need the Master. They need their Master and Buddha to explain to all the future generation that even though that they do not see it, even though they do not understand it, but they still have the capacity to believe. So I believe this. Do you believe it? It's up to you. Up to you. Do you believe that all the various manifestation, put all of them together? Does that image and symbol give you enough faith and trust that whatever that was said that make you believe? For me, 52 years of what Master had done, And let me tell you, it's not just 52 years. It's lifetimes of following this same master makes me want to follow her and believe her. And trust me, there are times that I don't believe her. And I will try to convince myself and show myself the way to believe. But regardless, we're on this path because we believe her. And once again, there are things that you cannot prove with science. Just like 30 years ago, they would not believe you if you tell them a cell phone can do all of this. But now it's possible. The fact that we can't believe it doesn't mean it's true or not true. It's just that are you willing to believe? So last question. Our time is almost up. Last question. Is Family a Dharma link, okay, by Huang available in this particular link that's available Friday and Saturday? It's an open link, but is it better to restrict to people who are ready as translation of Master's Dharma as this should not be simply just by anybody in case it's misinterpreted. What is the main objective of this link? So the objective of this link, once again, this is one of the various manifestations. The idea of this translation, it was originated out of the idea that we should use some kind of form to gather, and then all of us, the moment that we try to translate it, the moment that you try to interpret it, you would understand how difficult it is. And because of your understanding and because of that particular, so for example, you hear what Master says, and in your mind, you're trying to churn out very difficult, what it's going to be in English. And you could spend 10 minutes, 15 minutes thinking about how to translate it, but you can't. So through this link, the idea isn't to come up with the best translation in the world. None of us are professionals. The idea is we can put all these like-minded people together. And then we're going to have this study group one day, and it's going to come very shortly once we finish planning for it. But we're going to have this study group where we can take this particular sentence said by the Master, and then we can see how other people do it, review, and explain why they translate it in a particular way. This will be used as a material for us to grow and see, oh, so this is how you translate, because you think of it this way. Remember, translation, it's just taking what you say and put it into another language. That's not what we're doing. We're interpreting. We are interpreting, we're listening to what the Master says and using our own idea and experience and interpret it and using our own language and words that people can understand to explain what this is. So all the things that I said today, yes, more than half, probably a little bit about half of it is what Master said. But the other half is my own interpretation. And upon hearing this, you are going to have your own interpretation as well. Or as Sister Rihanna has shared, she's going to have her own life experience and she's going to have more. And when she shared that, that's going to be more interpretation. And that's how the Dharma gets to live on. And that's why this link is there, to gather all the different interpretations, to try to compress as many various manifestations as possible. And then together we're trying to find out, so what is it really there? That's what we're trying to find out. So that's why it's important. And the last question is talking about the four wisdom and the three bodies, which we have done, and we are now done. So thank you all for today, and we are done, and it's 8 o'clock. We're going to see all of you next week. For those of you in the U.S., we're going to probably see you very quickly in October. For those of you that are coming to Taiwan, welcome. We're going to see you in Huang one of these days. So thank you and bye-bye. And we have to be out of here. Thank you.